Hi guys, it is Mr. The Epic Ninja here. I'm back with another video, this time the highly requested top 5 best weapons in Terraria 1.3. In the 1.3 update, many awesome and amazing new weapons were added. However, once you get to the end of the game, these weapons are simply the best and most powerful. Although this list is my opinion, it is based off damage, DPS, usability, functionality and a horde of other pros and cons. However, make sure to still leave your top 5 in the comment section down below, or if you see a list you like, leave a thumbs up on that comment. Now before I begin, I would like to give a couple of honourable mentions. Although these weapons are really good, they just did not make the list. They are the Star Wrath, the Stardust Dragon Staff and the Meow Sword. Now that these are out of the way, let's move on to number 5. Number 5 is the SDMG, aka Space Dolphin Machine Gun. This weapon is part of a crossover reference with the game Edge of Space, another 2D sandbox game. It has been in the game files since 1.2, so nearly 2 years ago, except it has been unobtainable until the 1.3 update. With the release of the 1.3 update, the SDMG was buffed. A lot. Now, with Luminite bullets, the SDMG can have about 100 to 150k damage per second, the highest damage per second of any ranged weapon. With a good loadout, this weapon can have a base damage of about 200, which is absolutely insane. This guarantees that the player will chew through almost any boss or event, especially with the Vortex Armor stealth buffed. When compared to the chain gun, this weapon has a slightly slower rate of fire, however it's far more accurate and deals double the base damage. But despite having a 50% chance not to consume ammo, the SDMG chews through bullets because of its insane firing speed. With the Vortex Armor set, it'll take roughly 4 minutes of constant firing to get through a stack of ammo. This means that you may end up finding yourself farming the Moonlord for Luminite bullets, something most players would rather not do. So despite this being a really awesome and really powerful weapon, it only makes the number 5 spot. Number 4 is the Terrarian Yoyo. This is a drop from the Moonlord. On a side note, due to a partnership with one-drop yo-yos, this weapon will become a reality as a toy, so you'll be able to purchase the Terrarian Yoyo from one-drop stores. This yo-yo in-game acts similarly to the Flare-On in the way that it consistently spews out homing bubble-like projectiles at a rapid rate. However, unlike the Flare-On, this weapon can hit crits of 1000 plus. With the yo-yo bag accessory, the Terrarian has the highest DPS of any melee weapon on a single target. It is seemingly unclear whether melee speed affects this weapon, because although it's not meant to, it seems that it spams projectiles faster with a faster melee speed. I'm not sure if this is intentional or not. So the all-around crazy DPS, homing ability, unlimited use time for a yo-yo, long range and all-round usefulness of this weapon gives it the number 4 spot on this top 5 weapons list. Number 3 spot is the Phantasm. Even if you've been like barely watching my 1.3 videos, you will know how much I love this weapon. If I'm in a sticky situation and I'm with my Ranger loadout, I will always go for this over the SDMG. It's just a better weapon than the SDMG. This weapon was originally actually going to be my number 1, however, after a series of nerfs, this was not to be the case. This weapon fires 4 arrows at once at a random velocity. It has a use time of 12, however this will speed up over time to a much faster rate of fire. After attacking a target once, the Phantasm will fire a stream of homing arrows onto a single target, doubling the DPS. However, this will not work on test dummies. With holy arrows, this can end up leading to 3 to 4 times the original DPS. When using this bow, the only arrows I would recommend are either holy or luminite because they are so powerful. The ammo reservation is much greater than with the SDMG too. With a 66% chance not to consume ammo, I only end up using roughly 100 to 150 arrows per pillar event. The final pro to this weapon is the healing ability provided when using holy arrows and Spectre healing armor. It should be enough to keep the player alive majority of the time with the exclusion of the Moonlord of course, and that is why it takes my number 3 spot. So guys, I had real trouble deciding the number 1 spot. Both of the weapons for number 1 and number 2 are so equal in power, yet both have their own uses. In the end, I guess it came down to personal preference, whichever one I liked using more, since they are both so equal. But I'll probably be changing my opinion constantly over this. So without further ado, the number 2 slot goes to the Last Prism. The Last Prism is an insane weapon. It fires 6 piercing rainbow disintegration beams that combine into one super beam. The super beam deals the damage of roughly all 6 mini beams put together, easily getting crits of 1000 plus and even landing a crit on 11,000 on a crawltipede because of the negative defense. The main downside to this weapon is the way it chews through mana. It uses 12 mana per beam, however once all the beams converge, it will fire 6 times a second and use 72 mana per second. So unless you have Mana Flower, Nebula Armor or something like that, which I highly recommend, by the time you actually get to use the super beam, you will only be able to use it for a couple of seconds without your mana running out completely. The thing is though, you will barely need to end up using the super beam unless fighting Fishron or Moonlord because everything is destroyed so quickly. With a good loadout, the Last Prism can get an easy 10k DPS on a single target. However, I managed to get over 700,000 DPS with test dummies, making this weapon have the highest single and piercing target damage in the game. However, I find that this weapon is not very useful in confined spaces and is much better to use out in the open when you can spray the rainbow beams all around. However, besides all this weapon is insanely powerful, it is incredible, and it deserves the number 2 spot. Number 1, if you guys haven't guessed it already, the Lunar Flare. Like I said earlier, personal preference. I like using the Lunar Flare more than the Last Prism, however the Last Prism could have taken this place as well. So this weapon works similarly to like the Star Wrath or the Blizzard Staff. It shoots 3 projectiles out from the sky per shot, and they land, they impact, they hurt enemies, except this weapon is way better than both of those. As I said, with each shot, 3 Lunar Flares shoot down from the sky to where the mouse is. These flares can land anywhere on the screen, passing through solid blocks anywhere above the cursor unless they hit an enemy first. Where the flares land, they deal small area of effect damage, making them a super destructive weapon on both single and multiple enemies. On test dummies, I managed to get a consistent 60k DPS on a group and 8k on a single target. If you use this weapon right and kill the destroyer fast enough, you can also deal up to 640,000 DPS. The thing I like about this weapon is it can be used anywhere and still destroy every single enemy. Underground, in the open, you name it. The Lunar Flare has slightly less DPS than the Last Prism Super Beam, however it has a greater DPS than the mini beams. The Lunar Flare can also be used for longer than the Last Prism without draining through all your mana. However, I would still recommend using a Mana Flower or Nebula Armor. It may take some time to learn how to aim with this weapon, and it can be difficult to start with. But it's an absolute machine, and you can decimate any enemy that comes into your path. And that is why the Lunar Flare is the best weapon in Terraria 1.3. Well guys, thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, and make sure to put your list in the comment section. Based on the feedback from the preview, many of you were upset that I didn't include the honourable mentions, but mostly Meow, in the top 5. In my opinion, Meow is a great weapon, but it has been overhyped because of the teasers and simply doesn't match up with the ones on the list. I'm also really sorry for the delayed release of this video. I wanted to wait until the devs stopped releasing mini patches so that I wouldn't have to worry about nerfs or buffs anymore. That, and I also just didn't have the roughly 12 hours to put aside so that I could make this video for you guys. With all that said, I hope to release a highest damage video and even possibly some class specific top 5 soon, so stay tuned for those. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.